Once upon a time, there was a poor woodcutter. He lived in a cottage near the forest with his two children, Hansel and Gretel, and his wife. The woodcutter loved his children very much. His wife, however, was very cruel to them. One day, woodcutter's wife told him, "We do not have enough food for everyone. It is best to leave the children in the middle of the forest." The woodcutter was shocked to hear this. He said, No, I cannot leave my children in the forest." But she said, "This is what you must do if you want me to stay with you." So the woodcutter agreed. Hansel, who was awake then, heard all this. So he sneaked out of the house at night and collected many shiny pebbles. The next day, the woodcutter and his wife took the children for a walk to the forest. On reaching the middle of the forest, they said, "You wait here while we go and cut some wood." So the children waited and they waited, but their parents never came back. But luckily, Hansel had dropped pebbles. So they started walking back home. They found the pebbles shining in the moonlight and they reached home. Their father was overjoyed to see them, but their mother was not happy at all. She thought, how did they get back? Then she came to know that Hansel had collected pebbles. So she came up with a plan that next time when she takes them, it will be a surprise. So again, after a few days, they took them to the forest. This time Hansel was not prepared. He did not have any pebbles, but he had a loaf of bread. So he made tiny pieces of the bread and threw it so that they could find their path back home. On reaching the middle of the forest, again the parents asked the children to wait under a tree, and then they went away and they didn't come back. Then the children tried finding their way back home by looking for the bread, but unfortunately the bread was eaten up by the birds and insects, and they could not find it to go back home. The children cried. They were very sad and hungry. They slept under a tree. The next morning, they woke up with the tweeting of the birds, and then what did they do? Again, they started looking for a way back home. Then, on their way, they found a pretty little cottage made up of cakes, candies, and sweets. Wow! The children were very hungry. They took out a piece of cake and ate it, and they were very happy that their tummy was full. Suddenly, the door of the cottage opened, and out came an old lady, and she said, "Have you been eating my cake?" Then the children were scared. They nodded yes. She said, "Come in, my dears. You look very hungry. Let me feed you." And she took them inside and gave them a very hearty meal. And then she asked them, "Do you need a bed to sleep?" They said yes. So she let them sleep in a warm and very cozy bed. The children were very happy and they slept very peacefully. The next day, when they woke up, the old lady was nowhere to be found. So they started looking for her in the house, and they saw that there was a lot of food, and they saw a witch's hat, and there was a door that was not opened. They went and opened the door, and when they went inside, they saw that there were a lot of treasures. Then suddenly they heard a voice. "What are you doing in this room?" They turned around, and it was a scary old witch. The old lady was a witch, and she said, "You thought that I was a very nice old lady to feed you. However, I am here to lock you up so that I can eat you." And she took Hansel and put him in a cage and locked it. And she kept the key with herself. And she said, "Gretel, you get to work, girl. You have to make all the food to make Hansel fat." And she made Gretel do all the work, and daily she would feed Hansel a lot of food. And she would ask Hansel, "Show me your pinky finger, dear, so that I can see how fat you have become." But the children had realized that the witch was nearly blind, so Hansel always stuck out a little piece of board. And one day the old lady got very impatient. She said, "I have been feeding you so much and you are not putting on any weight. So I have had enough. Today I am going to eat you." She told Gretel, "Go and heat the oven up and then call me." So Gretel was very sad. She did as she was told, and she was thinking of a way to save her brother. And when the oven was hot, she called out to the witch, I have heated it. Can you check whether it is done?" The old lady got very angry. She said, "Silly girl, everything I must do. This also you cannot do." And she came and bent over the oven to see whether it was hot enough. And Gretel gave her a big push into the oven and locked the door of the oven. And the old witch was puffed out in the smoke. And then Gretel had seen where she had hidden the key. She took the key and opened the cage and got Hansel out. And she said happily, "The witch is dead, Hansel." And then they hugged each other. And then what did they do? They went into the room of treasures and collected a lot of treasure and put it in their pockets. And Gretel put some sweets into her apron pockets. And then they decided that they will try finding their way back home. And as they went out of the cottage, they saw a new path. They started walking down it, and then they came across a river. The river was very wide. They thought, "How will we cross it?" Then Gretel saw a duck, and she asked the duck, "Sweet duck, can you please take us across the river?" The duck said, "Yes, quack, quack." And then the duck took the children one by one on its back. Once they got across the river, the children felt it was very familiar. Then they started walking and they saw their house. So they ran to their house and knocked on the door. And their father opened it. Papa said, "Children, you're finally back." And the children hugged their father. And then they came to know that their mother was dead. She had not been well. The children were very happy to be back home, but sad that their mother was not there. And their father was very sad that he had left his children in the forest and blamed himself. But the children said, let bygones be bygones, and they had a surprise for their father. They showed him all the treasures that they had got, and indeed it was all very precious, and they were able to sell it and become very rich, and they never had to go hungry ever again.